We have a huge challenge for Rui Monteiro, who is next. Rui is the lead of an area of business intelligence and analytics at TAP. At TAP, as you all know, stands for Take Another Plane. So I'm expecting Rui to convince us to book a TAP ticket instead of some other carrier.
I'll try.
Tomorrow.
Now my presentation becomes more challenging because I try to convince you the other way. So, good morning, everyone. Thank you to be here, and thank you to the association to be here. I want to tell you, or to talk a little bit about our journey in analytics, just to try to change some of these things. Yes, our life is not easy, and I think it's quite important to present to you what are our projects and what has been our journey since these last 2 years, working with these more advanced techniques to work with our data. Sorry. I just broke this. Okay. And because we are an airline, I invite you to take off in this journey, in our analytics journey, with some interesting destinations. The first one, just know a little bit more about the TAP business and the TAP IT side that works together on these data subjects. And then talk a little bit more about the detailed strategy that we just adopted in the last 2 years. And in the end, I'm going to show you some of the projects that we have in place as a result of this strategy. The first step and the first challenge for us, IT and business, is just understand the business. For all the consultants that just likes to understand business, like I was in the past, I think, in my opinion, the airline business is one of the most challenging business to understand and to work with. We have a huge amount of business processes and business subjects. We have a huge amount of data. We don't have small data. Sandra, sorry. And this is the first challenge, just to understand the business processes and all the operational systems that support these processes. So we work with all this data. I'm going to show you in the next slide a little bit about our data warehouse, but we work with all this data to converge it to a single data warehouse, and in the end, of course, create some KPIs and some indicators for the business side to support decision systems. About the data warehouse, as you can see, we have identified 120 business subjects that we merge together in one single data warehouse with more than 18 terabytes of data, using almost 100 data sources to support or to extract this data, more than 6,000 ETL processes to transform it. In the end of the day, we have more than 5,000 reports, dashboards in mobile devices and so on, using more than 6,000 KPIs for almost 3,000 users. As you can see, we have a huge amount of data, we have a large number of users, and this is the major challenge to us to talk with the business, okay? I think we are not the only one that have this reality. Talking with the business is not easy, usually. And our main goal in this process, in this strategy, is just to create a bridge between these two sides. Of course, we're still working in business intelligence, the traditional business intelligence. And we have the both sides, but more than that, we are trying to create a layer between the red side business and the blue side IT that we call the purple layer, that we supported with data and with some cross-functional teams from IT and from business, just to work together on analysis, using data, getting more data, and challenging us to improve our business intelligence and analytics projects. From here, we believe that we are going to less work, have more value and more focus, and we have some examples in the end of the session. But more about the strategy, it's supported by three main vectors: centralized data access, leverage processing capacity, and using analytics with all this data. And the first part, it's still traditional BI. We have all this data. We are going to have a data catalog. We have data quality process, rules. We have all the management about accessing this data, and we are going to centralize everything in one specific place in our TAP Analytics portal. So everyone that wants to use analytical data from TAP is going to be using this web page to get all the data that they need. Okay. And yes, we have a huge amount of data, but it's not enough. We have a lot of data that we can't use until last year, and now we are using because we didn't have any processing capacity to get all the data from the bookings for the aircraft messages, airport messages, and so on. So we just improved our architecture just to add a new layer, this green new layer here, with cloud technologies to create the first data lake and create the first sandboxes to give them to the users, all the technology that they need to work with this data. For now, we have a data lake with 8 months of data, with 10 terabytes of data, as you can see. And we're just starting from the bookings data. We are going to start with the maintenance and aircraft messages and so on. So the potential is huge using these new technologies to get more data and to work with more data. And our main idea is just follow all the 4 layers in analytics. We were working last 10 years just reporting and analyzing historical data. We want to move forward. We want to start to work with real-time data and to forecast some of the major KPIs that we use on the company. And this was our first project working with real-time data. So, and this project is quite interesting because I think it's a cultural project. The main idea here, and the punctuality, as I think you know, it's a huge concern for us. This project, the main goal was to get the data in real time about punctuality, okay, and make it available for all the company. Nowadays, we have more than 20 TVs with this dashboard across all the company, and all the employees knows this data. So even in the canteen, they are lunching and they are looking for the KPIs, and they are discussing about the data, about KPIs, and about our performance. All this data we have also in the mobile devices and on the computers, but it's not just about punctuality. Probably we are the only airline company in Europe and probably in the world having real-time sales data. So we are streaming more than 600,000 books every day and showing in the C-level TVs with the real-time data about sales, okay? More. Real-time data is a reality in TAP now, but we want more. We want to try to preview the tomorrow's data that we need to take actions. And for that, we are working with the financial business area to follow all the sales process since the booking until the revenue in the end. So for TAP, we just have revenue after the passenger flies, okay? So we can have 1.5 year between the time that you buy the ticket and that you fly, and this is not revenue. So all this process was built, and this is now being forecasted to try to understand first what is the treasury, or what are going to be our treasury in 3 months, the sales amount, and in the end, what will be the revenue in short term. So these are some of the projects that we are doing in parallel to get this final solution is not just about looking at the revenue and the sales, but all the KPIs that we use to support these, the available capacity of the aircraft, number of passengers booked, and so on. So we are using all this data to get the forecasting project. And again, about the punctuality, and we are always looking for these punctuality concerns. We are with a project in place to forecast punctuality for the next 2 days. And why is that important? It's important because if you want to decide or to take any action to avoid delays, for example, you can cancel a flight to avoid the other flight delays, you can do it in the day before or 2 days before, and not in the moment where you already have the delay and you can do nothing to this delay. So with this project, we used several factors, external and internal. More the weather, as you understand, Lisbon and the airport have a problem about the weather and the fog, and it's one of the main reasons in the winter for the delays. And we use all these factors to preview the punctuality, and this model is refreshed every hour just to take in account all the data in real time and try to remodel the forecasting for the present day and next 2 days. More, and this is the last KPI, that I think it's the most challenging KPI that we have. That is Net Promoter Score. I think you know what is this. Every passenger that just flies in TAP, after the flight, will receive a questionnaire with some questions. The main question here is something like, between 1 and 10, would you recommend this service to a friend of you? And you have some comments that you can add to the questionnaire and so on. And we use this data to try to understand the customer satisfaction. And this, I will risk to say that probably this is the most important KPI that we have on the company. Why? And we are working a lot with this data because you can't improve the customer satisfaction directly. So I can't go to the airport talking with the customer and say, answer a 10, please. No. The main idea here is just try to understand from these questionnaires what is the customer satisfaction, and not directly, but supported by the operational KPIs, try to improve the customer satisfaction. And these are some of the projects that we just have in place to get this data, and most important, to take some actions. We have, and I have some examples here in the end of the presentation, some actions that we took away after we analyzed these customer satisfaction data. Talking a little bit about each one, we have some executive committees with specific analysis if we have any question about any changing in customer satisfaction. We use some statistical data just to improve these committees to help them on the analysis. More, we just try to publish this data, this satisfaction, customer satisfaction data to the crew. So every crew member have a newsletter every month with all their passengers and their satisfaction. And more than that, and here we start to work with some more advanced analytics techniques. And we have a matrix like Diogo. It's quite the same. Yes, and the process is quite the same. And the first project using this data was trying to correlate the operational KPIs, all that KPIs that you saw before, with the Net Promoter Score, and try to understand what is the major influencers in this KPI. We found some information that we already know. The punctuality is a huge influencer. If you lose your bag in the flight, you're not going to be happy, of course. The load factor, as many passengers you have on the flight, more difficult is to operate, and it's an influencer also. But then we found an influencer that nobody knew. the boarding process. So the boarding time, if you wait 1 or 2 hours to board in the airplane, you are not going to be happy. And nobody looked before this to this influencer, and we started a 6-month project. We just run over almost all European airports, just try to understand what the other companies were doing to improve this boarding time. And after 6 months of project, we improved between 5 and 10 minutes on the boarding time. And you can ask, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, it's not too much. Yes, it was much enough to be a use case used for the other companies to follow the same process and try to improve their boarding time. So it's quite huge to manage all the processes that are associated with the boarding time. And this was a very successful project. And more than the project, the action that just turned the value for the company. The second project, and because you have this question not just about your overall satisfaction, but about the food, the drinks, flight attendance, punctuality, all the entertainment. So we have what we call mini NPSs, but in the end of the day, it's quite difficult to understand what is the relationship and the influence between all these KPIs. The main idea here was, and is, to understand what is the connection between the NPSs, and in the end, you can have an overall target about NPS, and you are going to understand what do you need to do here to get your final goal. And this project is being used to define all the annual targets about NPS and customer satisfaction. More, we want to go deeper. We have a lot of data, but we want just more data and more specific analysis. We start with text mining also and sentimental analysis. So nowadays, we have a self-service in place for the business. And if a user wants to understand from an overall NPS for a specific route, for example, he can go through all this data until the customer comments and see what are the main words that they talk about, if they are happy or not, what is the sentiment. And all of this data is available nowadays for the user. Come on, okay. Some of the actions that just took over from these projects, and some of them are quite interesting. We had, and we found some customer insatisfaction on some routes, that we have some aircrafts with empty pantries where you carry the food and the drink, and we didn't have food and drink enough for the flight. And we found for the customer satisfaction, or miss of satisfaction, that we need to take more food and more drinks, and we just found it with this KPI. More, our smaller aircrafts, we have 2 doors for the boarding process, but if the aircraft is on the gate, you just can use 1 door for boarding. So we found that the customers were claiming a lot about the boarding time in the smaller airplanes. So we took the airplane to the park, and then we can use both doors with the stairs to improve this boarding process. A cute one, flights to Brazil are filled with Guaraná and not ginger ale. Okay, it's quite interesting because we had a net promoter score for Brazil route about the drinks, and we found that the Brazilian guy that just doesn't know any ginger ale drink, and we just changed for Guaraná, and we improved the NPS. Again. And I think this is the final result, and this is the most important conclusion that I can take from here, is that we are working with the business, we are working together with the business to get insights and value for the company, and we are just keeping improving this relationship between both sides, because we can't work alone and the business can't work alone. They need us, we need them, and this is the main challenge. Let me just finish with a one-minute video about one example of this project, or one of these projects, the first project we have, and the success with the business side. Thank you.
Moves so fast that you need this kind of solution. It doesn't work anymore with an Excel. There's where comes the idea to work with a MicroStrategy and make a dashboard with punctuality, the weather information, also maintenance. So all the information that is important to an airline in real time, have it in a single dashboard.
This is not just a dashboard. I believe that this is the best way to give a user experience.
With the dashboard on the walls and on the mobile phone, we get everybody seeing the same information with the same goals and same vision.
The on-time performance live dashboard was a real success. In fact, what happened is that we started getting more requests for other dashboards.
We hear the people saying, oh, can you see, today we are better than yesterday. And is this type of perception about the information that you want that the people feel?
It's very comfortable to me to know that I can be in the office or I can be on the street and I can check how is our operation. And that is the level of comfortability you need when you manage an airline.
So that's it. Thank you very much.
Rui,
Now,
thank you. Now I promise
to
that I'm
our
going to
plane.
consider TAP again.
Okay, thank you.